Camera a little better. We sit back here. Got my face in the camera. We're doing an audio check here, and we're going to see how that's going. Because my audio is a little jacked. Everyone says I sound good, but I listen back to my audio and it sounds like trash. I'm trying to figure out how to get something good sounding. All right, looks like we hit live now, so any minute and the audio check should be done. Still crispy, but you can make out what I'm saying here. All right. Yeah, good. All right. Sounds good enough. And I think my volume is loud enough. Ooh, my volume is pretty high, actually. So I will be beating Tristan out. And, yeah, we're going to get going here. And as well, I'm going to jump over, I think, and listen to this. Should pop it in the middle. Tristan back in yet? No, not yet. We're going to go ahead and see how I sound. If there's any echo here. Yeah, so I think I sound about like I sound on my mic now. But if I get closer to the microphone, then I sound way better. Oh, no, I don't. I sound really distorted. So what if I sit about here? Yeah, I think there is a slight something that is making it so I peak really easily. What if I crank up compression on my mixer? Oh, that's really distorted right there. And that sounds a lot better. Okay.
Hey, buddy.
All right, so I did a little tweaking too. I think it was the compression on my mixer.
Whatever works, as long as the playback sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, Twitch sounded good, right?
Better. Still
Better.
Crispy, but better.
Yeah. But different than what you're hearing now?
Slightly.
Oh, that's all that matters.
It's, you know, hopefully it's just this computer that's like shitty. Maybe the speakers are blown out or something.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Oh, are you listening to it on the computer speakers?
I am.
Yes, obviously, because you don't have any headphones in. All right. So, yeah, I'm Rich Frazier. I'm a DM. Been a DM forever. Been a forever DM since probably about the 90s. I stopped playing because I didn't like not having the control.
I'm Tristan. I've been a DM for about 3 years now, and I've been playing off and on since high school. I didn't start seriously playing until I returned from a sojourn where I lived in Sacramento, and I was kind of putting my life back together, and I found D&D through the help of a close friend, and then that friend stopped going to D&D, but by that point I'd made new friends, and it snowballed from there. I loved playing, and I've grown to love DMing even more.
Wow, and there you go, folks. That goes to show that you don't need experience to be a good DM.
It's true.
Because I would say, like, Tristan is definitely on par with me as a DM, and I would say definitely better at some things than I am. So,
Shucks.
you got those descriptions down, man.
Yeah.
Something that, like, I need freaking, like, Post-its all over, like, over the camera and over your faces that say, describe the scene. What did the monster do? What does the monster smell like?
Yeah.
So, watched your game last week.
Ah, yes.
And
Yellow.
you had an interesting situation come up.
I did.
And if you could have seen me on this side, I was all but like swinging my chair around the room. I was like, you're fucking him. You're fucking him. Leave him alone. Listen to me. I know. When Rich says he knows, just because it takes me 15 minutes to pull the proof out.
Yeah.
But you handled it so good. You were like, well, you fucked that up. Let's move on. That's like exactly how you handled it.
To recap, for our listeners, if you listen to the first episode of this podcast, you know that one of the players, the druid, unleashed an eldritch horror from a tome, magical tome, and it was rampaging through his city, and he had planned to lure it to his stronghold with the rest of the party and have a siege where they, fought it down and trapped it back in the book, Ghostbusters style. So I had a week-long session of them doing their last bit of prep. They had a day to build a stronghold, send away any NPCs that didn't want to be in danger. They built up defenses and put up a barricade, and they dug a moat and filled it with water and poured oil on top of that, lit that on fire, had like electrified like barbed wire on the wall and drug like copper wires electrified into the water below. So it was like a great barricade. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna have a great time like busting through that.
Walking right through it.
Hell yeah. It's I mean, tit for tat, you put the work in, there's gonna be like a consequence for it.
Yeah. I mean, if it just slows them down.
Yeah, it just slows them down. That's because all they need to do is hold them off for 3 rounds for the spellcaster who's working with them. If you listen to the episode last week, you'll know that there was a rival adventurer summoned to their realm by the presence of this eldritch horror because their business is dealing with these things.
Nice.
Like in their own way. So the spellcaster, this powerful, ancient spellcaster called Nahiri, is basically rising to the challenge, putting together her own party, and the last piece she needs is the magical book. And so she goes to the druid, and there's like a bit of a standoff at first, because Nahiri as a character, let me start by saying, like, in Magic canon, because she's an established Magic the Gathering character, she's probably my least favorite Magic the Gathering character ever, because she has this sordid history where originally she helped bind and like seal away these eldritch horrors, the Eldrazi, years and years ago, thousands of years ago. And then later she needed help because it looked like the bindings were weakening. So she goes to the person who helped her originally, this vampire, other spellcaster named Sorin. And Sorin and Nahiri have an argument, and because Sorin is a bastard, rather than deal with like the problem that he needs to fix, he just like seals her in carbonite, basically. Like he shoves her, and she falls into this like magic mirror, like giant sliver, like shard of silver, like this giant silver obelisk that traps demons and shit in it, and he traps her in there. And then thousands of years go by. And she's released accidentally when someone breaks the obelisk in an unrelated story. And so naturally she's pissed because not only has her world moved on without her thousands of years later, but the Eldrazi have been awakened and have wreaked havoc in the meantime. They were eventually defeated with a bit of her help, but she was very sore because her world has been disfigured. Not just by the ravages of the Eldrazi, but like the strain that containing them to that one world put on its reality. Her world will never be the same. There's this thing called the Royal, where like every few hours, every few days, depending like where you are, the landscape just like shifts and like a massive fucked up earthquake where gravity reverses and like oceans become deserts and mountains become plains and like islands become forests and like it's like if weather patterns affected the landscape. So it's a very inhospitable plane now, but like adventurer style enclave communities have eked out a living there, but it's not her world anymore. So that to her is a tragedy. So what does she do? She goes to Innistrad, the Transylvania and spot like horror world where Soren lives, and there are like normal good people living there. And because she does not like Soren and what he did, she summons one of the Eldrazi Titans, like one of the Cthulhus, to his world. He's like, "There, now you know what it feels like to have like a horrible monster destroy your world and ruin everything and murder fucking everyone." In my mind, I'm like,
kind of a dick move.
sure, but I can't thank you for this. And what pisses me off most is like, okay, so she's a villain. And like many villains, they don't think they're the villain. But there's so many fucking people in the Magic community who are like, Nahiri was right, Nahiri, like, and fucking woobify her. And I'm like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. I fucking can't, all right? She's the villain. What she did was wrong. What Soren did was wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. She's a murderer. So I'm sure I'm going to get comments about that on this podcast, but that's where I stand. So to circle back.
So hang on a second. I have a question.
I have an
so
answer.
So is Innistrad fucked? Or did they just like
a bit? No. The Gatewatch, the Magic Gathering Power Rangers show up.
Oh shit.
I mean, basically, like for like that section of Magic's history, like a good 2-3 years, there was Jace and Nissa and Chandra and Gideon and Lily and then Liliana. And they went to different planes as a group, planeswalking there, and solve a problem and then move on. And they're like, we are the Gatewatch. We have sworn to use our planeswalker powers for good and protect the different worlds of the multiverse. And it's basically they're basically the power. Like it's like a Power Ranger style narrative where every season focuses on that same group of characters, but in a different setting. So
they fixed Innistrad and put it back as
so they went there and
the bad scary plane.
Yeah, they defeated Emrakul, the Cthulhu monster. It goes there and it turns it from Gothic horror plane into Lovecraft horror plane because its thing as a Cthulhu monster is to like drive people insane and like convert them into monsters like from the inside out, like just like warping everyone's flesh and like it was a bad scene, and many people died before they were able to. And basically they like it was like a Pyrrhic victory because the monster took pity on them and appeared in the mind of the telepath Jace like as an angel. Like, oh god, more backstory. Emrakul on the world of Zendikar was mistaken for an angel by this ancient religion because its silhouette looks kind of like an angel, but it's actually like a giant fucked up floating island with like these wing-shaped like phalanges and tendrils floating down. And if you silhouette it against the sun, kind of looks like an angel. And that's how history has distorted it. So in Jace's mind, this angel, this fake angel from this fake religion that never existed, appears to him. And she's like, I'm not really Emrakul, nor am I you. I'm just like a way that your mind is making sense of contact with this eldritch being. So for the sake of argument, I'm Emrakul. And you're losing this fight. I'm going to destroy you and all your friends and this world. And here's the problem. I don't want to do that. As an Eldrazi, my purpose in the universe is to destroy life and then remake it when worlds are sick and dying so we can create new worlds. This world is not sick or dying. It's relatively young. So I don't want to be my purpose to be misused. So I'm going to give you an out here. I'm going to teach you and this other mage an ancient spell, and you and the nature wizard and the research wizard are going to bind me into the moon of Innistrad, which is made of silver, and silver in Innistrad has this property where it's used to bind like spirits and demons and stuff. And the whole moon's made of it, which is why it affects werewolves like that, because there's werewolves there too. So the leyline nature wizard and the research wizard who knows everything and Jace the telepath work together, and they inscribe a big like glyph of warding on the whole ass moon. That's and it awesome. Ghostbusts Cthulhu into the moon for now.
Until the world is sick and dying.
Yes. So that's
and the moon crashes into it, and you have Oh, what was that 80s cartoon?
Hmm.
Lost it.
He-Man?
No. Similar, but
The
it was like,
post-apocalyptic one?
yeah, where the moon was like always hanging over the horizon, broken and
Yeah.
shattered.
Thundar?
The Barbarian. There you go.
Yeah. Juju's always talking about that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was actually a post-apocalyptic, like, in the canon. Like, that's actually a
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool idea.
It's Latter Day Earth.
That's cool.
It is pretty cool,
Hmm.
especially for a kids show that didn't sell
Right.
toys at the time.
Wild. Reminds me of Adventure Time today. Definitely some inspiration taken there. So that's the backstory. So that's what Nahiri did in canon. So I don't like her as a character. So it was really easy to play her as a villain.
Right. Yeah.
So she's kind of like an anti-hero style villain, who believes what she's doing is right and will do whatever it takes at any cost to do it. So we know that she hates Eldrazi, and as long as she can keep an Eldrazi from ravaging the plane as a whole, she'll sacrifice like however many hundreds of lives to do it, because that's better than billions of lives. Because like to her, it's all about the ruthless calculus of war. And as long as one number is bigger than the other, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, there's truth to that.
I guess.
There is. I mean, but she's just not looking for a way to save everybody. She's looking for the quickest way.
The quickest way. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So she gets a party together of other adventurers on Ravnica to rival the main event, the PCs, the adventuring group. And she's like on the news being interviewed, like calling them out, like fucking Macho Man style.
That's awesome.
I hear the friends of Ravnica are going after this Eldrazi, and let me tell you, brother, they don't have what it takes.
But she has a Scottish accent because in her artwork, she's always wearing a kilt. Who's calling me? Podcast ruined.
Someone to bitch about your Scottish accent.
I'm recording a podcast with Rich. No, it's fine.
It gets edited. It'll be fine.
Okay. Okay, sweetheart. Be safe. I love you too, my dove. Thank you for your patience.
I got toast out of it.
Nice. So I gave her a Scottish accent because in her artwork, she's always wearing a kilt, like a tartan like skirt with her like adventuring outfit.
And so it's either that or a schoolgirl, right?
Scottish, I think, works better for adventurer archetype. And like every halfway through the session, I kept forgetting she had a Scottish accent and then going back to it.
Nice.
And like I even retconned that she had a Scottish accent from the previous session. And, like I've decided, like I announced to the party, I have decided that due to this character wearing tartan and a kilt in their outfit, that they have a Scottish accent. Thank you for your time. I will not be taking questions. And they're all like, "No, don't." And I'm like, "Yes." So she is, for want of a better word, a bastard. So it leads to her facing off with the druid because she needs the book, and the druid is kind of undecided on how he's going to deal with the monster. He's kind of working his way up towards let's fight it. They've come around to it. They've seen and heard the destruction the Eldrazi is wreaking in the background during their downtime activities. I peppered a little detail from each one into each person's scene.
Nice.
So, and they've heard from the Simic Guild, the Biomancer Blue-Green guild, that the guild leader will pay top dollar for any like non-degraded tissue samples of this monster.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's not a bad thing at all.
No. So they can get quite rich if they slay this monster and like bring its carcass to the Simic Guild, who will then, I'm sure, do nothing untoward with it. Jurassic Park
present
what could go wrong?
Eldrazi Crassus.
Phyrexian Eldrazi Crisis, because they have a glistening oil too. The Simic downtime activity for the Simic party member, he was like, he wants to know what's going on with this rebirth procedure because former Prime Speaker Zagana, this merfolk who was in his guild and was like a guild leader, sort of like a mid-tier guild leader, was affected by the Phyrexian poison gas attack and is dying of this nerve agent that like mutates you into a zombie usually, or just kills you. So he's like, "What are they doing?" He's like, what is she volunteered for? What is she trying?" So he finds out, like, and I played the same music from The Incredibles, like when Mr. Incredible is unveiling like Syndrome's plans to like unleash the giant robot on the city. So timed it perfectly, where he's like uncovering this research and like, okay, so they used your research party member and what happened in the attack and Zagana's DNA, and they're going to like make a super soldier out of her using Phyrexian like design principles, and rather than eliminating the virus, attempt to harness it. So like, and like then like the dramatic like da na 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 like music starts happening, and rather than him going, oh no, they're going to unleash terror on the city, like, and it's going to be horrible. He's like, cool, can I get in on that? I had to stop the music and be like, I guess. Well, okay. Do you tell the rest of the party about this? No.
Definitely
Great.
not.
Sure, I guess that's the next arc. You fuckers. I'm trying desperately to move past this like Phyrexian alien invader like body snatcher arc, but they keep fucking it up and just keep letting bad stuff happen.
That's awesome.
Spoilers for our listeners, but the subplot of the druid is that he took this little named
He took a little what?
my microphone changed for some reason. I did not tell it to do that.
It went out for a second.
You fucker. I'll kill you. Oh, I see what happened. There we go. How does that sound?
Much better.
Great. He takes this little girl, this Gorgon, under his wing. And she had like a mother already, like a surrogate mother figure. This Selesnian, like hippie nature druid elf who was taking care of her and like kind of schooling her to not be, an Undercity style Gorgon and to be more like a hippie nature druid. And unfortunately, the hippie nature druid elf was a casualty of the Phyrexian invaders' attack. And rather than resuscitate the, dying nature elf who raised this little girl who he's taken a shine to, like kind of in the same way that like Joel did in The Last of Us, he like coup de grace the elf and dumps her body in this Phyrexian tainted water where it gets washed away to the sewers. He's like, in his mind, he's like, I'm the dad now. I'm going to raise this child. She represents my redemption arc, and I'm like a bad dude, so I'm going to represent that through these bad choices, but I'm going to try to be better and be good for her. And I'm like, okay, that's like a cool, morally gray thing to do. And they have a lot of fun role playing with the little girl. Like, she's like their new favorite character. Her name is Zola, by the way. She is a Gorgon named Zola, which I wish I'd sat on that one for longer. Like I let them know the joke was that same session. I should have like waited for like 8 sessions.
Someone to get it, yeah.
Gorgonzola.
Finally, near the end of the campaign, you have someone yell, "Bring forth the Gorgonzola!"
Yeah. Her favorite food is cheese.
I would hope so.
So, what do you? If you were a dungeon master and someone dumped the body of someone who had reason to be vengeful towards one of the players into a body of water that was tainted by like a mutagenic viral agent from another world, what would you do?
Revive them evilly? Seeking only revenge?
You see?
Shit.
Gesturing with eyebrows arched for those listening at home.
I wouldn't even need toxic chemical. I'd just be like, Revenant.
Revenant. Oh, smart.
Yeah, you stole my daughter. That's a good reason to come back.
Yeah, she's coming back for sure. I think that's going to be like a subplot that he'll have to deal with. So sidetracked again.
Right.
The party is going to siege fight they're gonna defend against a siege by this monster, and this eldritch horror from beyond the stars has brought with it an army of zombies that it has reanimated through its vile, colorless magic. Most magic in the magic canon is assigned to a color: red, green, blue, black, or white, or a combination thereof. And that's like an easy way to define it, because necromancy is black magic, mind magic is blue, lightning and fire are red, nature is green, life giving and order magic are white, etc. But colorless magic is something, it's meant to be alien, lifeless, void. So it uses reanimation, but it's not like standard necromancy reanimation, not even something they'd be familiar with. It just like puppets these corpses back to life and fills them with its horrible alien energy. So it's doing that, and it's like draining the land of its life and sucking the moisture out of the air and turning everything into bleached, like brittle, like bone structures as it passes. And it's brought with it this zombie army, and it's a really cool monster because if you get too close to it, it has this aura of like disintegration where you like reality around you wears away, and you take force damage for every turn you're next to it. And if you die, if you
Pretty
go
awesome.
to zero from that damage, you're disintegrated. And like if it like sucks life out of you, then you're disintegrated. And like so, it doesn't deal a lot of damage all at once. It hits pretty hard, but like the danger is like if it gets you to zero with a certain certain kind of one of its attacks, it can remove you, which is very scary. And it can tear off chunks of its own flesh, which damage itself, which I thought was cool, and like throw them, and those spawn into little like mini eldritch abominations, like mini shoggoths.
Nice.
And then they can like grow and like come back together and make like another larger like drone that fights for it. And I had all that prepped. Huge, like expansive stat block that could do 12 different things.
It's a good looking stat block. Good looking stat block.
You saw that, huh?
Yeah.
I borrowed that one from a forum post that I found online and tweaked it to suit my narrative and added some more stuff in. And I plan for it to be able to teleport as well, because there's this spell in the Eldrazi block in Magic called Slip Through Space, where the Eldrazi like can teleport by just like folding themselves into like wormholes in space. Excuse me. And just like appear somewhere else, like because they're kind of boneless and their structure is really just defined by where they want to be and how big they want to be. Because again, they're alien monstrosities. They're non-Euclidean. So I was thinking maybe halfway through the battle, like on the second to last turn, like on the last turn, they're about to like ghost bust it. It teleports out of the siege field behind enemy lines and is suddenly right on top of them. And they're also sieging off the undead that are like World War Z climbing over the burning wall. And also they're dealing with the like skittering monsters that it keeps throwing. And it's going to teleport in. It's going to look really cool. And then I had entertained this idea, but it ended up not mattering, that maybe the spellcaster would finish the third round of their spell and it wouldn't work because there's something interfering with it. Like it ended up, I wanted it to be there's like it has like a hedron, like a powerful artifact like stuck inside of its body, and that's going to be the treasure they get when they kill it. So that makes it immune to the banishing curse. So they have to fight it down. But I calculated it out, and I thought they could take it. The players were not so sure, and they had different plans in mind. The druid cast a spell that I'm sure you're familiar with called Conjure Woodland Beings, which summons a number of fey creatures to the battlefield, and then he directs them as you will. And
that the DM chooses. That the DM chooses. All that are listening now, that the DM chooses.
The DM chooses the creatures. The way it is worded, one could be confused and believe that the player chooses what creatures and how many appear.
I think that was a design goal in 5th edition.
For instance, 12 pixies. Pixies, as a creature, which by the way have a spell called Polymorph, which changes any one creature into any one beast of their challenge rating or lower, of the choice of the person casting Polymorph. So the Eldrazi monster, which I had not thought to have any kind of spell resistance or the immutable form of the golem, or
and it makes sense to have immutable form.
Yeah.
And you gave it spell resistance or magic resistance.
I did.
On the spot, I think.
Yep, on the spot. I was like, it needs to have advantage. There needs to be some.
Yeah.
But then I roll. It's like, okay. He's like, okay, make 12 charisma saving throws. And if you fail one of them, The monster is a frog. And then the monster was a frog.
Right. And you had 3 legendaries.
Fucking saving throws.
You had 3 legendaries you could have used. So if you failed 4 of them, 4 out of 12, and what was your DC? Something crazy because they're player characters?
20.
20. Fucking 20. No, that's a pixie? Really? DC 20?
No, wait, it
was like-
I used the Pixies DC, so,
Yeah.
but even still, like, it rolled a 3 and a 4.
Yeah, like the odds alone of rolling it. And when I'm a DM, I roll shitty.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, there was, even if you used all 3 of those things, you still would have probably been polymorphed.
Yeah. That's why I didn't bother. I was just like,
Mhm.
I'm just going to roll these saves and just save the saving throws for later, hopefully. And then it became no longer a siege, but like a game of tackle football as the rogue / Bloodhunter picked up the frog, tucked it under his arm like a football, and just ran around the field while the zombies chased him. So that's kind of funny in its own way, and the players seem to enjoy that. But it's not the epic battle that I had envisioned.
So, generally, I think that's okay. I think the big problem here is the players conspired behind your back.
Yes.
They before the session, they made a plan that they didn't include you on. And I don't think I don't like that kind of D&D. If you want to play that kind of D&D, then rocks fall and everybody dies. Because I can make up my own plans in the background too. Right? And I think part of the fun in playing D&D is that the players bring you an idea and you go, oh, fuck, that's going to fuck everything up. Let's do it. You know? And I think if they would have come to you with that beforehand, it would have been, first of all, it wouldn't have put you on the spot when it happened. You wouldn't have been like, what do I do? You would have had, a little time to go, oh, well, he's got a mutable form, and that makes sense because he's an Eldrazi anyway. Or talk them around to something else. Oh, I think that's really cheesy. I don't like that in my game. Let's not do that. But the whole, like, the conspiring against the GM, I don't appreciate that. And it's like when someone goes in the middle of a game, they're like edging around what they want to do to try and pull a trick on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather them come out and say, hey, this is what I want to do. How can I accomplish that? And then we work together to accomplish something that feels the same as that.
Literally.
But you handled it like a champ.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could hear the disappointment in your voice. And everybody knew that, like they fucked up your plans. Right? And I think that some people enjoyed that more than other people.
Yeah.
I was having a side conversation with Quentin at the time, so like I know he wasn't like ha ha ha. But I think the best lesson learned from all of this is how you handled it. You just rolled with it. You were just like, well, that's the way things go. Moving on. And I mean, the players had fun, so that's generally what I look for in a game. No, it's not, because you're a player too. Even though you have the label as DM, like you don't want to go to a game and get shit on.
You're right.
So I think that
sometimes.
yeah, of course you do, because you're crafting this for them, And I mean you're crafting it for you too, because you enjoy the crafting. And that's why you like DMing. So, I mean, in the end, it worked out. I mean, I didn't see the end. I assume it worked out.
It did.
And you've got plenty of shit to slap them around with, honestly.
Yeah, in the end, they like Nahiri is casting a spell and weaving like words and multiple curses, and like words are appearing over her head, and like halfway through, like the spell turns green and the imagery of frogs appears over her head. Like, what the fuck is going on out there?
Oh, see, and all you had to do is really lean into that Scottish accent to make them pissed off.
Now they Nahiri as much as I do. That was my plan all along. Yeah, so the way it ended, so she finishes the spell, because of course she does, because there was no. It's like in chess where you get into like they lock you into a set of moves, and you're like, I can still beat this, and like it's hope versus despair, and like you kind of negotiate against yourself, and rather than, I had a number of options there, but I was on the spot, and basically I just reacted, split second thinking, and I just went with it because, well, I didn't want to stop the game and
Right.
say to them, that was rude.
Yeah.
So I kept going, and I was like, maybe the zombies can attack the frog and break it out of polymorph. And, they did not because, well, the zombies weren't intended to have a very high attack score, and the fucking rogue is bonkers AC.
Right.
He's very fast and hard to hit because that's what rogues
What
do.
rogues do, yeah.
So, yeah, they succeed. So they succeeded, and there's the wonderful imagery of.
Did you take away the artifact? Did you give them the artifact?
I did, but I was going to give them a milestone level up.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's me being petty, but I don't know. I think there's a certain wisdom to not giving a level up for something that didn't really feel very epic or legendary. That was just them taking care of business.
Right.
And I'm sure they'd agree. Now, if there'd been like a multi-stage siege and many things have been destroyed and maybe someone lost their life, that's a fucking level up.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be like a positive feedback loop. Because, say, you can speak to this. Say we all sat down for a session and we do level ups based on how many hours we spend at the table, and we just spend the whole time like arguing about treasure, and then nothing happens, and we still level up at the end of that. That feels bad, and it creates a bad feedback loop for leveling up.
Right. It's like, well, we can't take this dude on, so let's just stall for the session. We'll level up at the end, and then we'll come back out.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
Yeah, I know we played like that for a little while, where we did hours per session, but I also tried to make it like hours per.
There was a science to it. Yeah.
Like, yeah, the hours we spent of actionable session,
Yeah. And that made sense. The way you do it, your milestone also, like the milestone pips, like you have eight pips, and you get a pip every time you defeat a boss or like accomplish something amazing, and you need 8 to level up. Like that feels good.
Yeah. I mean,
science to it.
It's basically the system from Xanathar's. I mean, there's very little I changed on that.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I changed anything on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or no, Xanathar's is hours played.
Right.
Because that's what AL uses. So I combined them. I went milestone plus hours played pip things. Because it's much easier to say, oh, that's worth an 1/8 of a level. Then that's worth how many experience points? Hang on, let me do some math. Look at the chart again. Because that's what I was doing. That's what I was already doing when I was doing experience points. Was I was saying, okay, I want you to be at this level for this long, so this is how much experience I can give you each battle. Or each session. And I would cap myself that way.
Yeah.
And then I would stall. No, they can't level up yet. But that felt bad. So I think that milestone is really a good method.
Because I'm just fucking winging it. I was like, oh, you beat Eldrazi, then yeah, it's a level up. You beat this boss, that's a level up.
Yeah, you do it when it feels good. You do it when you wrap a story, right?
Exactly.
And like you said, this was just taking care of business. This wasn't. I mean, this all came from downtime, and it kind of ended like downtime. There was a fight, but it was a regular fight.
That it was.
Not an epic 4-session multi-tiered.
And he got to keep the bonus from the wisdom book because otherwise there was no point to any of this.
Right. Yeah.
And I gave them the artifact, one that I found online and tweaked to fit the campaign. A Dreamstone Hedron, which is a magic card as well, so they need recognize. And because there's many plays on like dodecahedrons of fate, and why don't I read this item to you? And basically, it's an item that lets you do rerolls the way luck does. But every time you do, this is something you might be familiar with, every time you roll that extra die and make the choice, the DM gets a die that they can then roll when they want to and make you choose that thing.
Oh, nice.
So let me go to My magic item collections. Here we are. Thank you, D&D Beyond. Sponsored by D&D Beyond. Here we go. Woo. Dreamstone Hedron. Wondrous item, very rare. Requires attunement by a creature that has seen too much. This 8-sided, sharp-edged gray metal polyhedron unfolds into a glorious panoply of shifting lights and non-Euclidean shapes when activated. The object gives off a glow that shifts from soft blue to violent red the more the user employs its powers to shift the odds in their favor. The hedron contains a mote of colorless mana, which allows the holder to tap into the power of the blind eternities in the following ways. And then basically lists the way luck works, or the lucky feat. And then it says, after the outcome is determined, gain 1 point of reality recoil, up to a maximum of 5. As a consequence of manipulating fate, reality itself may bend against you. Whenever anyone makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, the GM may choose to expend a reality recoil point to roll an additional d20. The GM can choose which of the d20s is used for the attack, ability check, or saving throw. After the outcome is determined, remove 1 point of reality recoil. The player may choose to cancel this roll at the cost of gaining another point of reality recoil. When the player would accrue more reality recoil than what the hedron's max pool would allow, they must immediately roll a flat d20 and be subjected to any of the following effects. On a natural 1, they are erased from reality. You immediately die and cannot be resurrected by any means. Your body and belongings disappear without a trace. Only the magical items in your person will be left behind. All memory of you is erased. On a 2 to 5, you die. You may be resurrected by standard means. You retain your reality recoil points. Once resurrected, reduce your reality recoil points by 3. Then roll on the indefinite madness table and gain that flaw. On 6 to 10, roll a d20. On odds, take 8d8 psychic damage and then roll on the long-term madness table. On even, take 4d4 psychic damage and roll on the short-term madness table. Gain either madness for maximum duration. Reduce reality recoil points by 1. 11 to 15, reset your points, decrease the maximum pool by 1. 16 to 19, reset the points, increase your maximum pool by 1. And on a natural 20, you get like a boon. I believe boons were introduced with, I think they touched on them in the
DMG.
Theros.
They're in the DMG.
Say again?
They're in the DMG. Yeah.
Oh. So you gain like the lucky feat as a boon, basically. And then let's see here, gain the lucky boon. Once you die after receiving this blessing, the hedron will reform once more somewhere in your person, and you will lose the lucky 1 boon. If the hedron is not collected by someone within 24 hours after being reformed, it returns back to the altar at which it was formed. Regardless of who takes the hedron, reset the maximum reality recoil point back to 5. So you'll remember you gave us this D30 that you found, and you said whenever we wanted, we could substitute any die roll. So, like, say, if you're rolling a D4 for Magic Missile, it can be a D30 instead. And the players can do that. But then when you do, we hand it back to you, and you, the GM, can choose when to use it for any one of your rolls. And so it was like a bit of give and take. Chance, risk, reward, danger. So that's something that I kind of took to heart here when I adapted this magic item that I found.
Really cool. I like it. I like it a lot. I like that you put a maximum on it, and I like that you put a penalty for going over that maximum on it.
Exactly.
So it's the player's choice whether they do it or not.
Mm-hmm. I showed the item to them. Nahiri gave it to them as a boon for helping defeat the Eldrazi in lieu of payment. And because I gave it to them because it was going to be originally the loot they got off the Eldrazi. And I spent all that time tweaking the fucking magic item page and getting the formatting right, so I wasn't about to let it fucking go nowhere. God damn it. I lost enough progress that session.
Bye.
And so she gives it to them because they had asked if they wanted to visit Zendikar, because they're trying to get this planeswalking portal engine online, and they want to visit her plane sometime. And if you read the spell Plane Shift, which isn't like a mainline spell in Magic the Gathering, but they're kind of using the same rules when determining how their portal works, they're going to need a magic item from the plane they're going to. Otherwise, it's like a random roll where they end up.
Oh,
They
was
asked her for
that's a it's a new spell in Tasha's too.
yeah, the Blue Veil or something.
Mhm.
Blue Curtain. Golly. So, so the way the battle ended, I started playing. I switched the music to this dramatic, like rocket takeoff music, like with like synthetic alarm bells going off, and it's like a suitably epic, like things are exploding song. And I have Nahiri go like do the Bayonetta thing where she goes Avavago, like invokes the spell, summons the portal, and it appears above the Eldrazi, which is a frog. And here's the thing, like the frog's being carried by the rogue, who's being carried by the druid, who's in the form of a wyvern, because it's his stronghold, and he can do that there. And so the portal appears basically right on top of them, and the portal starts to suck all three of them in. And one person like half-heartedly protested like, "Why you didn't tell us they would do that?" And I'm like, "Aha! The villainous Nahiri, who I hate, neglected to tell you, the characters, that it would do that. Maybe because she viewed your lives as a necessary sacrifice, should it come to that. And she hadn't predicted that it would be a frog in your arms when it went off." Wink, wink. So, I get my jollies off. I get my fix. I got my epic moment where, the rogue and the druid and the sorcerer have to like work together, and the wizard helps too, like bending luck and using a chronal shift to reroll, and the sorcerer uses bend luck to like adjust their saving throws against this portal. So the frog is like spaghettified toward this black hole in the air, and like turns back into the Eldrazi as it's being drawn through like a portal 1/10 its size, like makes one last swipe before it gets ghost busted in, and they're gonna get sucked in too. But like the rogue holds onto the druid, who like reaches out and holds onto this magic like thread that the sorcerer casts, and then like the wizard grabs hold of it too, and it's like this awesome like Adventure Zone arms outstretched moment where they're like hanging over the abyss before it sucks them in, and then they manage to hang on just long enough for the portal to close, and the day is saved.
Nice.
So the cleric was like, "You put our friends in danger. Like, how dare you?" And punches Harry in the face. And in my head, I'm like, "Ha ha!" But outside, I'm like, she's not phased at all. I mean, like I didn't roll damage or whatever, but Nahiri is, an kind of an amoral bastard. And they're like, "How could you? Like, we deal with threats every day." And she's like, "Your threats are nothing compared to the threats that I deal with. I spent 40 years building a plane-wide like system to trap monsters in my home world, and I've been trapped for thousands of years, and I fight like Cthulhu monsters on the fucking daily." And she like looks at the person who punched her, and she's like, "Your hands are soft. Like it can't be that bad."
That's awesome. Your hands are soft.
Because they live in a city.
Yeah.
Like you might be fighting alien monsters, whatever, but you can still get a cup of coffee whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Nahiri's from Adventure World, where like you fucking sleep in a hammock because the fucking floor might be the ceiling when you wake up. Fucking hell. So they have a conversation with Nahiri. They settle down. She does not apologize for almost killing them. She's forthright and steadfast in her beliefs, and she's like, "Thank you for helping, and I'm gonna go back to my plane now." And what is it? The other subplot going on where Zola. So this is a subplot that had been going for a while, because these statues of alien monsters, these Phyrexian, have been showing up in different like enclaves peppered throughout the city. I don't know if I ever touched on this with you, but there was this initiative put forth politically by the Boros, the soldiers of the world of Ravnica, saying that many of our people in these different guilds are being petrified by evil magic, like Gorgons do it. And the problem with petrification is you can't be resurrected if you're petrified. So their souls are lost to us. So we're going to work with the Selesnya, the hippie nature druid guild. We're going to do like a plain wide giant ritual and unpetrify everybody on Ravnica. And it's going to be great. It's going to be good and great and good. And the players who by that point have figured out the conspiracy that these aliens have been smuggling monsters like over from their world by petrifying them so they can like Terminator style come through the warp without being damaged or like disintegrated and hiding them here in Ravnica. And when this ritual goes off, dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds of alien soldiers will come to life underneath Ravnica and tear it apart. So came to figure out the way they were doing that. The agent that came with them that first invaded Ravnica had captured this little Gorgon girl who was being raised by the Selesnya. And she had cut off the little girl's arm and fashioned like her metatarsal or whatever the fuck this bone's called into like a bone wand and used it as a focus. Because the Phyrexians on their world cannot escape their world. If you want to get them to another plane, you need to be on that other plane and let them in. So the way the agent did that was by creating a link, by like sending a little piece of bone that belonged to Zola back to Phyrexia, where like the big bad there can like the fucking Sauron guy can hang on to it and use it as like a keystone that links to the bone wand on Ravnica. So they'd open up like a super unstable portal for a few seconds. They'd force Zola to use her Gorgon vision to petrify the monsters and then pull them through.
Nice.
So that was the plot for a while. And so they defeated the agent, they took the bone wand, which is a super cursed item that like has some powerful magic in it, but one of the main things it does I slapped like 3 like artifact, because like when you have an artifact, you have like different things like attributes you can apply to it. It had like 1 or 2 beneficial ones, like 3 like negative ones, one of which was Gorgons are always hostile to you, no matter
Nice.
like even if they don't know why. That was like a little aside. When Nahiri showed up to the druid's house to get the book, there was a Gorgon assassin with her, and she's like, I don't fucking trust this guy. Let's fucking kill him.
Nice.
So he asked Nahiri's help to help destroy the wand. So because he had attuned to it while Zola was away to help fight the Eldrazi to boost his fucking spell save super high. Anyway, it ended up not mattering because
should have made it cursed. Sorry, can't unattune to it.
It is cursed. It's he destroyed it and like exploded like a frag grenade, and shards of it are now embedded in his body. So it's kind of like that old sci-fi story, The Lodestone, where this guy finds a rock, Shadrach, that's supposed to like resist heat, and whoever he gives it to, like they're super cold towards him. It cools down emotions. Someone who's mad at him gradually becomes just indifferent. But if someone he was courting had it, like suddenly they don't care about him anymore, and they're just like cold and chilly. So he destroys the wand, and like for a second they see like the big bad in Phyrexia like 40k Zinch style, like, this is my plan all along, like, haha, this is only phase 2 of my plan, we'll see you again soon, ha ha ha. So that's bad guy for later, and he breaks his link, and they're like, oh, I hope he doesn't come back later. And then Zola comes back to his homestead, and he tries to comfort her, and she's like, that smell, oh, it smells like blood and metal, and she can't get near him because like it makes her sick. And he's like, what's wrong? He's like, you smell like the person who kidnapped me. My teacher, because like she was kidnapped by like the monster, like wearing her old teacher like a skin suit basically.
Nice.
And so she was tortured and kept prisoner by this horrible thing wearing like her old teacher's face for a long time. So she doesn't know that he attuned to the wand that was made out of her fucking arm. But it has affected their relationship, and we're going to explore that in the next session.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I've talked a lot about what happened in my session, and I want to talk about what I'm going to do next session because I need to kind of flesh out a dungeon here. I have an idea that I want to explore. It's going to be like the cherry on top of the dungeon, like the penultimate. Like there's going to be the dungeon rooms. There's going to be some cool stuff for them to do, monsters to fight, and puzzles to do. Sure, but and this is a spoiler for those listening at home. So if you're a naughty boy listening to this podcast and you're in my campaign, stop right now until after Thursday. I did you see the Winter Soldier?
Mhm.
And you remember this wasn't in the Winter Soldier movie. This was in Civil War. You see a Marvel Civil War?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they showed the clip at the end where the Winter Soldier was the one who killed Tony's parents?
Yes. Mhm.
Well, it just so happens that we had a new player join, and he wanted to do time magic, even though he's a Simic, like a blue-green character, and time magic is usually a blue-red Izzet thing. So I'm like, how did he come by that? I'm like, he had like a great justification for how he uses it to like accelerate evolution of like test subjects and like monitor their effects. So that's cool. I'm like, where did he get that? I'm like, I think he would have stolen it from like an Izzet lab like long ago. He's like, that makes sense. So I actually did a solo RP session with him recently where he stole it from this man and this woman in a lab that are working on this like time travel orrery. And the other player, Quentin's character, Louis Zima, his parents died or disappeared when he was only 12 years old in some kind of time travel experiment. So picture this. We got some dramatic music playing, and they come to like floor number 7 out of 10 in the tower they're ascending. And the bad guy, who's the mob boss, who used to be friends with them, has like just been spending money left and right to get whatever he can't get his hands on to like defeat them. He's like, I spent a lot of money on this one. Took a long time. Check it out. You'll want to see this one, Louis. And I'm gonna like describe, basically like paraphrase the RP, where years ago, the new player Ray, his character, steals into the lab and steals this crucial piece of like time travel like equipment that lets him use time magic. And then he's gonna leave the room, and in the clip, you'll see him leave, his character, and then I'm gonna go, "Hey Louis, what do your parents look like?" And then they're gonna walk in, and their machine's gonna go haywire, and they're gonna look for the crucial piece they need to like shut it down, but it's not gonna be there because guess who just stole it?
Nice.
His character.
That's
And so
awesome.
like then they're like that like moment before the bomb, a moment where like they hold each other, and then they're just like a silhouette, and then they're gone. And then maybe like Frankie Peanuts will like throw down some extra weapons for Louis, or like try to get them to fight each other, and just like that's floor, like that's encounter number 7 basically.
Yeah, just
So,
make
my
sure
question-
Frankie's not in the room.
Yeah, no, not until the very last. No, that's not the boss fight. That's just like his like main hurrah
Yeah.
before like
That's awesome. That's really good.
yeah. It came together perfectly. So my question is, as a GM, I know you have said that you do not encourage PvP unless there is consent between the players.
Right.
So I'm a little nervous because I'm kind of setting up the situation where naturally one player would want to kill the other.
Mhm.
If I'm right about their motives, because right now it's great because right now his like those characters are like best friends because they're working together in research projects, and they're both scientists, and they're kind of feeding off each other like in combat and in conversation. So to suddenly turn and go, you were the man who killed my parents, basically, like chef's kiss. I'm setting up for PvP. That's what this room's going to be. I'm worried that it could become like a player problem. Do you have any advice for resolving that or tweaking it, or what would you do?
Have a conversation. Right after that scene, you say, okay, so this is what's going on right now. All right? How do you guys feel about it as people, not as characters? All right?
Yeah.
Now, how does your character feel about it? You know, and make sure that you're getting a separation there of how Quentin feels about it and how Louis feels about it. And then all of you decide what's going to happen going forward.
Indeed.
And then, I mean, maybe you could get the other players' input too, but I would really, really focus on the two characters involved. because the other party members might push them into something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the other party members might all side with Louis and say, "Hey, you need to kill him." What? Nice. And it's really important you find out what those people want, you know, and what how those people feel about it without the input of the other players.
Yeah.
So maybe say, you know, okay, we're gonna talk about this, and this is how it's gonna work. These are the rules. Okay, we're gonna talk to Quentin first, and then we're gonna talk to the other guy first, and then the party can have their say. The party can say how they feel about it. Okay, and then we're gonna talk to Louis, and then we're gonna talk to the other guy, and then the party can have their say on it.
Yeah.
So just as long as you get that everybody understands that this is a character conflict and not a player conflict, and I mean, I don't know Quentin that well, but I think he'll dig it. You know, it's it's another layer deeper he can go into Louis, and it's this great like. I mean, it's this great Iron Man Captain America moment, right? It's just another like little wedge that is going to come between them in the future. And he's not going to fucking try and kill him or anything, but he's going to be like, wow, this guy, you know, every once in a while. And that's going to be his justification for doing stuff every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I think that it could end really good. You just got to be ready for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So that's going to be the main course of the dungeon. That's the reason they're going to be there. The reason they're there is to defeat Frankie Peanuts, of course, and cap off his story. And maybe Frankie is like at the end of the thing is like they come in, and it's kind of like at the end of Half-Life 2 when Dr. Breen is like communicating with the alien overlords and asking for like a transfer to some other world because the protagonist is closing in on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Frankie will be doing that, talking to either like the Phyrexians or Nicol Bolas, and like asking for like a transfer to some other world. And like they finally defeat him, and he's like, "No, you need me," and, you know, he's dead.
Let me go to the bathroom real
like,
fast.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some tea. W board.
Just leave it on the counter. I'll do it.
I'm making tea.
Downtime.
that's you. That's what you sound like. Rich, you back yet?
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, had to make some tea. Throat's killing me. Okay. So that's
Designing the rest of the dungeon.
yes.
Okay. So Frankie Peanuts is Orzhov, is that right?
That's right.
So he's white and black.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost gang.
Ghost gang. Gucci gang.
Okay, so I would definitely employ some Orzhov tactics.
All right.
Maybe look at Orzhov enchantments
Okay.
or instance. Maybe pull some of that shit on him. Also, the theme of this dungeon seems like betrayal, right? Because either Frankie Peanuts betrayed them or they're betraying Frankie Peanuts, right?
Kind of both.
Yeah.
I started talking about the backstory of why they're doing this last episode, but I got sidetracked. So to sum up, guild leadership changed. Now there's like a socialist in charge of the Orzhov, the Kaya the Ghost Assassin, And she's like, "Power to the people. I'm gonna make everything right." And Frankie's like, "Make everything right? That's bad for business. Oh no!" Yeah. So he's like an Orzhov like loyalist, like a monarchist in modern day terms. And so he took like his half of like the guild, like all the old school cronies who worked with him for him. He took like the other bank managers. He took a lot of their fucking money with him. And so he's hamstringing the new Orzhov effort to reform its image and help people. He's like, no, we're the real Orzhov. We're going to stay in hiding with all our money and all our soldiers. And I'm going to try and take back Ravnica one shady deal at a time. So new Orzhov is like, please go kill Frankie Peanuts so we can move into a new age here. And the player whose quest this actually is like, sure thing. He's not going to be here for this, which I feel bad about. But the other players really want to do it because they love Frankie too. They want to cap off his story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, betrayal and change, maybe change of power. So you said Frankie has this back cave of shit, right?
Yeah.
Like I would. So originally, I think I told you to like go through and pull out some artifacts, right? Some cards from Magic that are super like iconic. And now I think you should do that, but make sure they're super powerful too, right?
Yeah.
Like fucking a Mox.
Yeah, he's got. I think he's. So like the theme of the dungeon is going to be like riches, because it's literally the dungeon itself. The structure itself is based on this actual Magic card called Tower of Fortunes, which I thought was perfect because he's got all the guild's money with him, and he has their portal that he's been using to steal shit from other worlds and talk to other people from other worlds, like say Nicol Bolas with the Phyrexians. I was torn on which villain he would have him be talking to, looking for an escape, and I think we should go with Nicol Bolas to transfer into that next big bad, because they're trying to transitioning out of dealing with the Phyrexians, and I'm really trying so hard to close that fucking chapter, but they keep fucking up.
Yeah.
So, I envisioned the final boss room. I've got like that's me all over, right? I've got like the beginning, the middle, and the end, but like none of the fucking meat and potatoes. So the boss room is the top of the tower, of course. And for that fight, I've got him using this one card, like the abilities of this one card called Mirror Sigil Sergeant, which was one of my favorite draft picks back during Alara Standard. It's a white card. It's a Rhino soldier, and he's almost a Rhino. He's an Elephant Man, and it's a 4/4, 4 power creature, 4 toughness. And at the beginning of your turn, if you control another blue permanent, this white permanent will copy itself. What happens if you have 2? Well, both of them will copy themselves, and you got 4. So I think the main shtick of this battle is that it's going to be him and some soldiers, but also every round he can choose to walk over to this magic mirror he's got and copy himself. And maybe those 2 copies could copy themselves. So if they don't run interference, manage their distance effectively, keep them from doing that, they may be overrun.
Nice.
And I was thinking the main like setup for the room is that I've got the big powerful artifacts you had in mind. The Eldraine had this cycle of 5 legendary artifacts that are based around like items from Arthurian myth. There's the giant magic mirror that like Merlin had, and there's this black artifact. It's like a giant like jacuzzi-sized chalice that you can sacrifice someone's life in and bring someone else back to life or recover your youth. That's like the Holy Grail. And then you have Embercleave, which is basically Excalibur. And then you've got the Great Henge, like this giant like stone structure that's basically Stonehenge. And then you have this Circle of Fire that like creates like an army of knights at the drop of a hat. And that's like supposed to be the round table. So maybe he's got all 5 of those, and like that is how his battlefield is set up. The white circle summons like soldiers. Maybe that's how he's kept up his fortress.
Right.
Because if you split like loyalists in half, like he's not going to be able to pay on a shoestring budget like so many like soldiers. So I think he'd start replacing them with like these automated spirit soldiers from this knight reliquary thing.
Right, and maybe that's where the Rhino comes from. Right.
Exactly.
First round, as they walk in the room, he's summoning fucking a couple of these rhino dudes. And I would start off with at least 2.
Yeah. I was thinking like Frankie would copy himself.
Oh,
That's too powerful.
Oh, no, that's pretty good. I mean,
he'd be like.
So I would start off with him with some mooks copying themselves using one of the artifacts in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle of the fight, Frankie goes to that. He's like, my mooks aren't doing this. I'm going to have to copy me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or the real Frankie comes out of the back room.
Yeah.
And copies himself.
And I do this a lot. I had planned to do it for the Eldrazi fight if they had needed it, but they didn't. To have like someone else show up and help them mid-battle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good plan.
Because one of the first like main adventures that Frankie starred in was there was an assassin who was trying to get him. This person wearing like Aetherborn, like Kaladesh filigree armor with a cool mask and like a power suit. And there's this scene where they're in his office, and Alpha was kind of who had at the time the cleric had a contentious relationship with Frankie. Maybe wanted to move up and fill his boots. And there's like a laser sight like creeping up his lapel as the assassin's going to try and take him out. And she had the opportunity to do something, and she did. She saved him, and that's how she ingratiated herself for those couple of arcs. And the assassin leapt into the room, and they had like a close-knit fight with the assassin before it leapt out. That assassin turned out to be in league with one of the early party members, a Dimir assassin by the name of Tommy. So I think maybe like midway through, maybe Frankie gets the upper hand. And then as he's like gloating and like doing his villain monologue over the fallen cleric, she sees a red laser dot like creep up over his lapel, and then Batman style through the skylight after he like gets like gunned down, the assassin like from like 5 arcs ago jumps down in their power suit and like grinds on the ground, like got the cool fucking tuxedo mask music playing.
Right.
And like he gets up and he's like, time to finish the job. And he helps them out, taking out Frankie.
Nice.
That's a great, I think that'll be a good touchstone for them. How many? So I'm not worried at all about designing the boss fight. I'm really excited to do that. When I get excited about something, I love to cram little details in there. My main concern is how many rooms. By rooms, I mean like how many encounters, puzzles, fights, whatever. Do you think this dungeon should have?
We'll look up something called 5-room dungeons. It's an amazing little thing this guy John 4 came up with. And it's basically a path of 5 different rooms or encounters. It's a guardian, puzzle, combat, boss, and treasure, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a really good format. And it's really like it's really like scalable, right? So you can have a 5-room dungeon where each room is a 5-room dungeon. But that'll give you like something to go on. And since your player's not going to be there this week, maybe make it big enough that they only get through half of it.
Yeah, I was thinking of making it a 10-room dungeon. Like I just randomly decided it should have 10 floors. So my first thought was floor number 1, it's a firing squad. Like they go in, it's like a bank lobby of the tower. And Frankie tried really hard to kill them like a few sessions ago. Like he had like 12 different assassination attempts go off at the same time while they were all at brunch outside. And it's only like the sorcerer has this time gauntlet that can once a day cast time stop.
Mm-hmm.
But you have like he has to spend money to recharge it because it needs like those like nuclear fissile material to run. He has to spend like 5,000 gold every time he wants to cast it.
Yeah.
And like do a downtime activity to refill it. So this is they're at brunch and suddenly someone activates it for him remotely. And he realizes there's like a missile suspended midair going towards them. There's a bomb under someone's chair. Someone's poisoned the food. There's gunmen behind those bushes over there. And he has like X amount of turns to like the Flash, like save everybody before they all die.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun. And even though the other players were like stuck in time stop mode, they had a lot of fun watching and listening to Louis like look for the traps, and they helped him out to like player talk. That was a cool downtime session. So and in media res, if it was Tommy, the assassin, who's going to help them later. He did it for them because he's also gunning for Frankie on his own, and he saw an opportunity to help the party and keep them alive. So Frankie's style of governance and of problem solving is very much overkill.
Mhm.
So because he had like they would know firsthand that he's very dangerous to deal with, and when they crossed him, he's 12 assassins at the same time to take him out. So I think if they walk into the first room, Frankie would be like, well, I could play fair and have it be like a regular dungeon, or I could have like 15 dudes open fire on them as soon as they open the door.
Right.
So that's like the first room. It's just like a shooting gallery of like 15 dudes who have firearms that they've gotten from other worlds, and they have to fight through that. So first room, combat, draws them right in. And then I thought like each floor, because they're going up this tower, like the room they'd go in would be the encounter or the puzzle or whatever, and there'd be like 3 other rooms branching off that would just be like nothing rooms, like places where guards would hang out, or like a locker room or something.
Yeah,
just to give
exactly.
it like a lived-in feel.
Right.
So I just need to like fill in the rest of the fucking dungeon. Floor 1, bank lobby, firing squad, automatic weapons. Floor 10, the final boss battle. Floor 7, I just wrote down, quote, "You winter soldiered me?" in quotes, because I'm picturing that's probably what Ray will say when I spring this on him.
Yeah, so I would try and stick to themes, right? So betrayal and switching factions. I would and treasure, right? Because this guy's rich. So I would have an Orzhov team follow them in, maybe even push them forward. No, we got to get this guy before he runs. We got to get this guy before he runs. Don't worry, we'll clean up here, okay? 3 rounds into combat, there's like 2 guys left, and the Orzhovs bust through the door, and they're like, no, go, we'll take care of the rest of the guys. And then they go, and then they collect all the treasure to give to the people. Right? Because so this allows you to fill this place full of fucking whatever you want. You know? There's a fountain over here to the left that's just raining gold coins. Right? Into a big pile, and it's dominating the whole room. But that's gone when they come back down. Because they've scooped it up. We're redistributing the wealth. That's what we're doing. Why would you take all the wealth when we're redistributing it all? Oh, I see. So you want to be the new Frankie Peanuts. And then you've got the Orzhov against the characters later if you want.
So like it's like a
or
second
they want.
final boss when they hit the bottom level of the tower. As
Yeah.
they come back down. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so just make it a squad and then make the guild leader down there at the bottom when they come out. That's great. What did you get? Let's spread this around, see how we can use it for the greater good. I mean, give them a reward or a treasure or whatever you want to give them, but
They're gonna have like Frankie's like, you know.
but make sure they're like walking out of there fucking like, look at all this shit we got, and then take it right away from them. And I think that you wanna allude to that in the beginning, right? You want her to say, I appreciate you guys going into this tower. He's got a lot of wealth in there that we can use for a lot of good things, you know. Frankie's got a lot of power that's been misused, and I want to use that power for good things, right? Make sure that she's telling them beforehand that I'm taking your shit before you take their shit. So they can go, oh fuck, she told us that. How do we not know that? And then, like I said, you can pepper fucking whatever artifact you want in there, knowing that they're not going to be able to take it.
The artifacts that Frankie's going to be using for the boss battle are easy enough to keep from them because they're all giant, like,
right,
scene fixtures. You need like a fucking crane to move.
So, like in one of your rooms, like betrayal, when that comes to mind, I think like, so you've got these kittens in cages all over, right? And they're being experimented on or whatever, and they're like, please help, please help, please help. And so they let them out, and then they all attack them. Right. Redistributed the wealth. That's a little harder to to put in a dungeon, but I think that the Orzhov cleanup crew coming behind him would help.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then, yeah, I mean, just wealth, like, a fucking, a gold coin golem. You know, just like extravagant things that Frankie has paid. Frankie has paid 15 people to fucking stand at a door and wait. You know, when they walk in, they notice that these guys are fucking, you know, they're soiled. They've been standing there for hours waiting. You know, when they check out the rooms behind them, there's like there's rations unwrapped and like, you know, ready to be eaten, but they were too busy fucking waiting for you guys to come through the door because that's what Frankie paid for, you know? So you want, yeah, I think extravagance, like if you can work betrayal in there, like at every level, like, so when they hit that, it's like the peak betrayal, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Frankie knows them. So have Frankie leverage that power, you know, that time stop gauntlet, boom, get that out of their hands. I just read this article about, it's by John Ford, I think, ironically, about having a different, like target, like end game for your encounter than the players have, right? And like, I started reading this article and I was like, oh, it's the same thing, you know, have fucking, you know, oh, you gotta rescue the princess before 3 rounds or she dies or whatever. But no, he's like, you know, so you want to soften your players up. So fucking look at it from the meta perspective first. Okay, I want to take away this time gauntlet. What's the best way to take away this time gauntlet? All right. And then work the encounter around that. The example he gave was one of his players is a cleric and they just got this really big heal spell. So the first room, what he wants to do is get rid of that heal spell. So he's going to get a couple creatures that do a lot of damage and he's going to focus them on one person. So that cleric's got to use that heal spell. So it was very interesting. I think it was in my email, so it should be easy to find and send to you. But just looking at that from a different perspective and then wrapping it back into your theme, I think. Like, go through their powers. Like, Frankie knows them. Frankie knows what they're going to do. Frankie hired them for a reason, you know? He's been watching them. He sees what they do, you know? And it's not even covertly. It's overtly, you know? Right. They probably come back and tell him stories. So he's ready, you know? He's got that fucking mage in employ, right?
Exactly.
That fucking is standing there and all he does is counterspell. That's all he does. He's fucking, you know, a 6-level mage and he just stands there and counterspells for Frankie. That's what he does, you know? Frankie's got that fucking druid! Summon woodland creatures, fuck you! You know, just use all the dirty tricks that the players have been using against them, you know? And when they try to do something like that, have Frankie have a ready way for it to backfire, right? So like, I don't know the players that well, but using summon woodland creatures, right? If you were going to allow that to fly again, and allow them to summon the pixies again, find a way to use that against them, right? You've got like a fucking mirror of spell reversal or fucking some sort of, you know, cube in the room that's invisible cube that's surrounding him that reflects spells back, you know? So when they go to cast that spell, it comes back on them. And remember that monsters aren't the same as characters. Monsters have powers that characters don't have.
Right.
Monsters will have access to spells that characters don't have. I mean, it's obvious if you go through the monster manual looking for it. So don't try to be as flagrant about it, but definitely say, oh yeah, you know, he's into some weird shit, you know. He's got a lot of stuff that you don't have, right? He's made deals with people that you don't want to make deals with, you know, if they ask. you know, and maybe even allude to fucking Nicholas Bulleye, right?
Yeah.
Right, allude to the dragon magic and how he's betraying the Orzhov as well for Nikolai Bolas, right? Have some fucking maybe that firing squad isn't just a bunch of dudes; it's a bunch of Nikolai Bulleye dudes, right?
Oh yeah, they could be. Nicol Bolas has these things called the Eternals from another world. The these skeletons, these mummies that are like coated in this blue metal called lazotep, and they're like Terminators basically because they're zombies, but they're coated in this metal that makes them immune to being vaporized by the blind eternities when they go from world to world. Because you can't unless you're a planeswalker, you cannot go through the blind eternities without being vaporized. If you're organic, you can take inorganic stuff and you can take clothes or whatever, but if you try to bring another person, they're vaporized. So the Eternals were his answer to that because they're coated in this anti-be vaporized metal.
Right, and the players are going to know this.
Yeah.
But they're not going to know why he has Nicholas Bulleye, guys. Right? Have you even mentioned Nicholas Bulleye?
No.
In the game?
Fought...
Right? So he's going to be like, oh, this is just Tristan fucking pulling some shit using these guys instead of, you know, using somebody else. And then they get to the top of the tower and it fucking wraps everything up. That goes, oh, okay. You know, all your themes peak at the top of the tower.
Yeah. And maybe the theme of betrayal comes back because Frankie is like, I don't know if you've ever played Half-Life 2, but there's the scene at the end where the doctor, who's like the boss, is talking to his alien masters and he's like, transfer me off world, get me out of here, find me another body. And they're like, they say something to him. He's like, what do you think? He's like, no, like I've done so much for you. You have to help me. And they're basically like, no, you're not good enough. Bye.
Yeah.
So
your usefulness has ended.
Exactly. So Nicol Bolas ends up betraying Frankie as well and leaving him to the wrath of the party.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe even like, so you've got fucking, you're like at the peak of your boss fight and fucking Frankie Peanut, Nicholas Bulleye is still there, you know, in a fucking magic mirror or whatever. And Frankie Peanuts is pleading, just take me out of here. And he's like, nah, and I'm taking my toys too.
Oh, yeah.
And he just fucking like depowers whatever fucking, like, have it so that it's fucking going hard against the players, you know? You've got fucking 12 rhinoceroses and 4 Frankie Peanuts out there, you know? And then fucking Nicholas Bulleye goes, no, you don't deserve this shit, and fucking takes it all away. And then the tides turn for the players, and they either Frankie loses something or they get something from Nicholas Bulleye saying no, that just like pushes it over the top, and it'll like reinforce that betrayal.
Oh, it's so good. I never thought about using dungeons as like a metaphor for like a theme like that. That's
oh yeah.
See, that's like something you do better than me because I just like, here's a story I want to tell. Oh, also there's a dungeon.
But it's a story starts with theme too, right?
Yeah.
You might not be thinking that way. You might not be saying those words, but you're thinking that way because I know you're a writer. So like you write themes and it's natural to you to do this, right? But when you recognize it, you can really like just fucking hammer it home. Because if you put 1 or 2 things in there, the players aren't going to notice, right? There's that DM saying that however overt you think you're being, you're not. Like, you need to fucking come across the table and hit somebody and be like, look! He's a bad guy! Don't listen to him! You can't broadcast that stuff enough. So when you recognize that you're broadcasting a theme and just, like, barf it all over the table in front of them, it's great. One of the best things to do, I think, is when you start write like your thesis statement or whatever, you know, write your theme across the top of the page that you're writing on, you know, so you can go back to it when you're stuck. When you're stuck, you go, okay, what's my themes? Trail, treasure, passing of power. And then use that to reinvigorate what you're doing for the next room. I can't remember where I read that either. Oh, I think it was Angry GM. That guy has some amazing shit. Angry GM. If you've got the time to sit down and read his shit's like 4 pages long though. He's so fucking verbose, but he's very like detailed and very like, we're gonna do this step by step by step by step. All right, I gotta go.
All right, this was fantastic. You've been such a great help. I'm sorry for
It was good.
the session.
No, I mean I kind of like that better because like, especially since the last session was really an info dump, and it was great, and I realized that I was the one that turned off the stream. Realized that today because I have a macro pad over here, and I was trying to zoom out on the Foundry, and I probably hit the fucking stop recording button. It was my fault. But and also you're playing in my game tonight, so it's hard for me to talk about that.
To get another session going with somebody else, so I can talk to you about that.
Yeah, I want to. It's making the time for it. It's saying, okay, I'm going to do this. You know. So eventually I'll get there. Anyways, this was great. I really like fucking getting all worked up about shit like this.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
I'm gonna have to find a way to listen back to this. When do you think you'll
Twitch
have
VOD. Just do the Twitch VOD.
Yeah.
You go back to Twitch after this is over, it'll be right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Let me know how it sounds.
When do you think you'll have this episode ready for podcast ability?
I've got like Jason dropped like 3 on me in a row. I think 2 on me in a row.
Oh.
Remember last week I said I had 2 to do?
Yeah.
He never got me those 2, or 2 weeks ago, I guess. He never got me those 2, so I got ours out first. And he thought he was waiting for one from me, so he wasn't giving me the others. And I was like, no, man, I had that done last week. So I've got like 2, I think, to do. And then one he recorded last night, maybe.
Gotcha.
So I've got to get at least one of those done so he can get a podcast out this week. And then I can get this done probably pretty fast. Hopefully my audio doesn't sound like fucking trash like it did last time. Because it was really fucking bad last time. It was so bad. Like I'm watching the meters now, and I might be clipping, but I'm definitely louder than I was last week. So yeah, it should be easier because I won't spend fucking 2 hours trying to figure out how to get my audio sounding better.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and ours is just it's really quick. You know, I'll cut out all the ums that I say and you say. And that's bathroom break. And then it's done, pretty much. And you've got the fucking intro and outro.
Yes. Fantastic. I can't wait to put it up.
Someone said I should lower the volume on the music on the intro.
Yeah. What did they fucking...
Do you agree?
They said.
Do you agree?
Do I agree? It's all right. I don't know. Maybe like lower it like decibels. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I just want to make sure that someone wasn't like, oh, it's just too loud. And you're like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah. Tiny bit.
All right. Hey, yeah, Creative Commons Trent Reznor. Who would have thought?
Fuck yeah, dude. Thanks, Trent Reznor.
All right, man. I'll talk to you tonight.
Take care. Cheers.